Sports. Ari Wasserman, theathletic.com. He wrote, and he and Andy Staples, and I wish we had time for this part of it, where they went on a tour, and they were at A&M for the Yell Leader and all that. It was fantastic, but we're talking to him today about TCU and their win against Oklahoma State in a game that probably gets overshadowed even with what we've talked about as well. Ari, thanks for your time. How exciting was that game, and your thoughts about what the Frogs have done so far?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. The game was not very exciting for three quarters, but they, TCU made this amazing comeback where, they erased a 14-point lead in the fourth quarter on their home floor, on the home field. And, when you're one of the three games that pits two 5-0 teams together in the same weekend for the second time in college football history, and you find a way to get it done against a team like Oklahoma State, which has won games like that regularly, that's a huge, move. Now, I don't necessarily know what that means for TCU in terms of, where they're going to be at the end of the year, but, considering where they were a year ago and now moving into the top 10 and remaining unbeaten, heading into a weekend where they're hosting another top 20 team, it's a really good spot for them, Yeah, so I was at the game like everybody else, and everybody, including me, was watching the Alabama game on their computer while they were covering it. And I kind of got, thought to myself, we're all locked in on this Alabama-Tennessee game, and right in front of our faces is an undefeated team versus an undefeated team, and what turned out to be a very exciting game. So that's kind of what helped me, get to the column idea that I had, and moving in that direction is a huge step for them.
Do you think they have staying power, or do you think that the rest of the Big 12 being as close as it is, and that there's, anybody can beat anybody on any given weekend, will ultimately trip up TCU or any other Big 12 team trying to get to the playoff?
Well, that's the thing about the Big 12. And, I covered Ohio State and was in the Big 10 for a decade of my life, and I'm still trying to get acquainted to the Big 12 Texas, football type stuff. And, the one thing I've noticed is that, all these Big 12 games for the most part have 3-point spreads, and they just kind of beat up on each other in a very, different way than the other Power 5 conferences. Ohio State and Clemson and, Alabama and Georgia kind of run through their schedules and don't lose very often. But in the Big 12, the champion is rarely undefeated, and, you have surprising results all the time. I mean, even Texas, who is, trying to, get back on track and be what it can be if it reaches potential, almost lost to Iowa State on Saturday, So, when you say, does this have staying power, I guess it depends on what you mean by that. Do I think they're going to go out and win the national title this year or make the playoff? I think that would be kind of a big ask for expectations. But I do think that the good news for them is that there's nobody on their schedule that they can't beat, which is a very exciting thing when you're sitting here at 6-0. But the flip side of it is that I don't know if there's anybody left in their schedule who, if they put together a very good game, can't beat them. So, that to me is kind of what makes the Big 12 exciting. And, even after Texas and Oklahoma depart to the SEC, I hope that the conference will continue to get some attention nationally, because I just think it's an exciting conference to watch. And, every time TCU plays between now and when and if they lose, I mean, that's a team that you need to respect and tune in and make sure that you're not missing anything.
Ari, we got to watch Quentin Johnston here in high school. He just was down the road about a half hour and played in the same district of the school that we cover. So we got to see him on the come up and knew he was exceptionally talented. And now it's cool to see the rest of the country starting to catch on to that. Max Duckin didn't start off the year as a starter, which is now well publicized, but has quickly, become the man there in Fort Worth. Just curious your impressions of seeing those two up close and personal, and what your thoughts were.
Well, I was really impressed with Max, and I've been watching him on TV for the past few years now, and I know that he had some injury issues and stuff. But that kid, it was it didn't even occur to him, even when they were losing for 3/4 of that game, that they could lose. And to see him throw for 286 yards and 2 touchdowns and lead drives and have that gutsy run in overtime to get them down to the one that they eventually punched in for the win. I mean, the resolve of the quarterback is probably the most important thing that you need to count on when you're talking about a team that is trying to move forward and navigate a tough conference and stay unbeaten. So Both of those guys you mentioned are very good. And, the fact of the matter is that whenever you're leaning on people who are from Texas and they're on the team that you're talking about in that state, it's a huge get. Now, I know that Max is from Iowa, but like that is a nice 1-2 punch you were just talking about. And I think, TCU's got good players, man. And that's one thing that Sonny Dykes said, like, after the game. It's like, how do you make this turnaround? He said it wouldn't be possible if we didn't have good players. And anybody who has followed anything that I've written on The Athletic over the course of the past 3 years, since I became a national reporter, knows how much I emphasize the importance of talent. And, TCU's got quite a bit.
So can you try to describe the scene? That's kind of how you started out, the fans on Amon Carter, and just kind of how cool that moment was for not just TCU, but Sonny Dykes in the program.
Yeah. I was actually at Bryant-Denny Stadium the weekend before, and that was one of the louder stadiums I've ever been in. And I'll be honest with you guys, like, I was kind of disappointed by the first 3 quarters, the crowd noise. Like, it was very kind of subdued, even when Oklahoma State had the ball. But that place came alive in a big way there in the fourth quarter when TCU was mounting its comeback. And then I got to go down to the field and watch the overtime from the sideline. And, it was a very nice environment once people kind of woke up. So definitely a fun place to go. I think the stadium is beautiful. It's a great place to cover a game. The view from the press box is amazing. And the fans there really seemed to buy into it once things got really exciting there at the end. But I was a little bit, honestly, disappointed by the lack of noise for the first 3 quarters, especially when Oklahoma State had the ball.
They're kind of new to it, right? About being kind of super into games. I think certain fans need to kind of adjust what goes on because that's not how most of their games go in their history.
Yeah, well, the other thing, too, that I have to realize about myself, and I'm kind of trying to adjust this, is I covered Ohio State for 10 years, and they played in a very big stadium.
Yeah.
And that stadium at times wasn't very loud, but when it was loud, it was really loud. And every single time I went on the road with Ohio State, the stadium that I was in was at peak capacity because anytime a team like that comes in, they have their best crowds. So, like, my viewpoint, I think, of what's regular, both, with expectations on the field and, of course, crowd atmospheres has kind of been skewed a little bit by my background, too. So, as I'm trying to, ease into this national role and see new places and experience new things, I'm really kind of resetting the bar of what's normal in the sport. And, environment, in my opinion, isn't always about the crowd noise either. Like, there's stadiums and, atmospheres and people who are bought in, and TCU certainly had all those things.
Ari, I was curious on the opposite side of, what you were able to pick up impression-wise from the disappointment with Oklahoma State. Obviously, Spencer Sanders is not full health, and that's going to be a big storyline this week. But just kind of your thoughts on what you saw from the Cowboys side of things.
Yeah, I mean, when I went to the game, like, in my mind, in the first quarter and, into the second quarter when it seemed like Oklahoma State was kind of rolling, I was looking up numbers about Mike Gundy and, the 10-win seasons that he's had there and the start that they had to the year this year and, coming up just short of the Big 12 championship last year. And, I was going to write a column about how underappreciated they are as a team that consistently gets it done, despite the fact that it's not recruiting at the same level as the other program in its state, So it didn't work out that way. And obviously you've got to write with what went on. But, Oklahoma State's been a team that, consistently over the years has been a very tough out in conference. And I'll tell you one thing, they were very disappointed with the way that game ended because, if you look at Oklahoma State's situation too, if they would have won that game, they were, had like a one-way ticket to the, potentially being the front runner to go to the Big 12 championship game. Now, the tough thing about this conference is that the standings and they're all kind of clumped together a little bit. And there's a lot of teams, Texas included, who Oklahoma State's playing this weekend, all seem to have a nice path to the championship game. And, it was a tough one that they let slip away there.
Ari, as you mentioned, and you've covered recruiting, and I know you mentioned to covering Ohio State or whatever. It kind of sounds like being here and being at that game or covering this area a little bit has given you a different perspective of the conference. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I had virtually no experience at all being in Big 12 stadium. So, and that was kind of the reason why Andy and I went through the SEC too, because, when you're a beat writer, I was living in Columbus and my job was to write about, focus on, and cover Ohio State. So the previous 10 years before the last 3, and the first 10 years of my career were spent hyper-focused on Urban Meyer and how they were recruiting their national championship hopes, going to their games and going to their away games in the stadiums they played in. So as I adjusted to moving to Dallas and, marrying somebody who went to A&M and, kind of taking this next step in my career, I kind of view this as, my introduction into different areas of the country who are certainly as passionate about football as the place that I came from. And, one stadium, one trip, one game at a time, I'm starting to develop a expertise and a knowledge of the way things occur in these parts. And, sharing a podcast with Andy Staples is certainly a good front row seat on how you can kind of be an expert on everybody. So, I kind of have approached my job as just trying to learn and trying to be more accepting and understanding of standards that aren't always the same as the place that I covered before. And, knowing that college football is okay with that. Not everybody has to win a national championship to have a successful year, and not everybody's going to sign a top 5 class every year, but it's about the communities and the fans and the bars the program set for themselves and whether or not they can achieve those bars. And I got to be honest with you, it's been really fun to expand my horizons, and it makes me feel a little bad that it took this long for me to get out and kind of experience these new things.
Okay, you mentioned Andy. You guys made a bet where he had to eat $28 worth of Taco Bell.
Yeah.
He did that today, I saw. Do we have a status report a few hours later of how he's doing?
I think he's doing okay. Andy can put it down, man.
Yeah.
One time we were in Phoenix, Arizona. We were covering the 2019 Clemson-Ohio State playoff game. It was the semifinal there. And I took him to this deli that I grew up eating at called Chompy's, and they have Mile High corned beef sandwiches. And, the Mile High, like just picture the ones you see in New York that are like 5 inches tall and have the 2 small pieces of pie bread. This man ordered 6 corned beef pastrami sliders on challah bread in like a half a pound of fries, and ate all 6 of those sliders. It was probably the size of a regular big time sandwich. Then ordered another corned beef Mile High sandwich, both sides full, and ate another pound of fries on top of it, like let out one belch, and then we went and covered a football game. And I'll tell you, I'm not the skinniest guy in the world, but if I tried to even eat half of what he ate, I would have been pulverized. And not only did he eat it, he just went and he worked for the next 8 hours, and I saw him eating a hot dog at halftime. So I don't actually think that the $28 challenge from Taco Bell really set him back all that much. Now, what will happen as his body processes that food is a different discussion. But in terms of the overall amount of food that he ate, I think that he's doing just fine. He didn't even really seem to be full when he was done.
We have a graphic, and this is from, I believe this was the trip when you guys went to A&M, of the steak that you ordered and the steak that he ordered. Here it is. I put this up. You have a good-looking filet. He has just a cow, like the entire cow.
Yeah, and he's like shaming me about it now. So he's like, dude, I thought you could eat more. I was like, I had an appetizer and a soup and a salad, and I got an 8-ounce steak, and this dude gets like the 35-ounce steak and he ate it faster than I ate mine. So, that's kind of he works his butt off in the gym, and he's in really good shape, but he can really eat quantities that I could never dream of. And I was full after my 8-ounce steak.
Just straight
and I get it. 8 ounces is a small steak, but we ate other things too. So he ate all the appetizers as well. It's not like I'm the only one who had appetizers and bread and stuff. That was just what he ate. Yeah.
It's just a straight up John Candying in the great outdoors, that thing.
Oh my God.
And he never seems full. He always is just yeah, okay, I'm done. And then sometimes you got to unbutton the top button, or you've been in a good carb coma where you just kind of lay down and need a few hours to recover from it. He goes, I don't get carb comas. I was like, all right, dude, whatever, man. Do your thing.
He's inhuman. What games do you have this weekend?
I'm not going anywhere this weekend for the first time in a month.
Okay,
so I'm going to, we kind of take it week by week, and when game, I might go to the, try to go to the Ole Miss Texas A&M game in 2 weeks if Ole Miss wins, and they're going to A&M off the bye week, and all that all this stuff. It's super exciting, man. I don't know if you guys feel this way, but I feel like the season's gone by so fast.
Oh,
Yep,
man.
absolutely.
Already in October, and it's like I feel like it just started.
Yeah, 6 to
but-
7 games into the season.
And all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. So, I want to get out there and cover, a few more games this year, and then at least and see some new stadiums. I've never taken a game in at Kyle Field yet. I've been to, College Station, but never have watched a home game there. So, I'm just trying to continually educate myself while also writing good columns from the games of the great state and beyond.
Yeah, you're doing a great job with it, Ari, and you would have been right in the middle of what that craziness was in Knoxville. That would have been fun.
That, to me, was like, I was like watching that game in the press box. I was like, God, I wish I was there. Like, I mean, everybody. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it was the best atmosphere in the history of college football, but I cannot imagine a place being louder or more crazy than that place was when you think about the size of the stadium, the hunger of the fans to win that game and finally doing it. I mean, I don't know if you could, outline a better scenario for a college football Saturday anywhere. And it was fun to watch on TV. I cannot imagine what I've been like to be there.
Ari, thanks for your time, buddy. Appreciate it. Good stuff, and we'll hope to see you down the road.
Yeah, anytime, guys. You take care, and thanks for having me on.
The athletic college football writer, Ari Wasserman, and given a different perspective now that he's been